Put down your baby and pick up a beer. Dad Jokes is back with a brand new episode. I'm Jerry, joined here by Brandon, and you're listening to the podcast of two first-time dads going through the journey of fatherhood with all of you listening at home. And Brandon, it's been an interesting week in the Olusky household. How are you doing over there?
We're doing pretty great around here, but we're going to hear more about how your week was. I feel like I might be bragging a little bit based on what you've told me, but it's been a good week.
That's all right. I'm too tired to care if you're bragging, Brandon. But this week, unlike last week, Brandon, we're not going to forget about our dad joke until the end. Do you want to start off with a dad joke? I'll start off with one today, if you don't mind.
Let's just let the record reflect. He asked me, did I want to? And without giving me an opportunity to respond, just said, I'll do it. But go ahead, Jerry.
I'm going to blame everything on sleep this week. That's okay. I'm just going to blame it all on sleep. So, Brandon, I got one for you. You know, did you know that there can be 100 people in the room and, 99 of them won't slap you, but one will?
Really? I'm winning this week.
I thought that was funny and topical.
It's okay. It was pretty good. I'm laughing more at your reaction than the actual joke, because you really did think that was funny.
I did think it was funny. I actually watched
went over my head.
I watched the SNL.
I can add.
I watched the SNL skit on Will Smith's slap. That's why I thought it was. Yeah,
I need to check that out this morning.
It was pretty funny.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so I saw that right before I came down, so I thought I'd use a Will Smith joke because I thought it was funny. But yeah, so this week, Brandon, we're going to get into what is the 9 temperament traits for babies, and there's actually a quiz that goes along with it. So we're going to talk about what the 9 temperament traits of babies are, according to a couple of doctors that we'll talk about, and then we'll talk about kind of where our babies fall according to the quiz that they have for the 9 temperament traits. But before we get into all that, Brandon, what's going on in the Banks household? Brag a little bit, why don't you?
This week Bryce turned 7 months since the last time we talked. He has overall been I know this has been a tough stage for you at the 4-month stage. I'm hoping that Peyton follows the same path that Bryce once she gets to this age, for your sake, because legitimately this is like my favorite time since he's been born. I think I said the same thing last week. It's like he basically hit 6 months. Once he was able to kind of sit up, he's been able to entertain himself a ton. He's just been a joy to be around. Me and his mom both feel the same. It's easier on us, truthfully. I think it helps us out, obviously, that he's doing great. He's sleeping well. Basically, one wake up. It was 2 nights last week. He slept straight through the night. He's trying a lot of new foods. He had a little piece of pizza crust. Kelsey had some Costco pizza yesterday, and let him try a pizza the crust out. And he's been getting a lot of different foods in. But I'm not gonna keep going and just make you more and more upset. Legitimately, it could not be better right now. So for all you guys listeners who might be struggling with your child at whatever age they are, if they haven't hit 7 months yet, hopefully you experience the same thing we did, because it's been great.
Yeah, no, obviously it's been a little bit different over here. Peyton's 4.5 months, and it's funny. We have a segment on the show that's called Things Your Wife Said. But this week I'm going to go with things my friends said, because I had multiple friends, including you and your wife, Brandon, who both told me 4 months is the worst. I probably had 6 people tell me that. And when they told me at the beginning of 4 months, I was kind of like, it's not been that bad. And I think part of it is because, we're used to Peyton being colicky for the first 3 months of her life. And so even if it was quote unquote bad, it didn't seem much different. But the last week or so has seemed a little bit different. She is in that 4-month kind of sleep regression and also teething very badly at the same time. And it's been interesting, to say the least. The biggest problem is that she just, quote, won't really sleep well at all. In the past, she struggled to sleep without contact, but she could sleep through the night and maybe wake up once or twice. Lately, she's been waking up every 2 hours or so and just unconsolable. And then if you try to feed her, and then you got to take a while to get her back to bed, and then she's doing it again. So she's been pretty miserable throughout the last week at nighttime, which is definitely tough on Macy and myself. And then during the day, she's been pretty good, less colicky for sure. She doesn't really have the screaming fit rages, but she is hard to entertain at this age. I feel like right now she almost needs someone entertaining her or doing stuff with her constantly. Otherwise, she gets very upset. She doesn't like to be kind of on her own doing stuff, and then she doesn't like to be in the same position for very long. So that's difficult because you're constantly having to entertain her throughout the day. But there's a couple things that have been kind of fun. We've been giving her more food. She's been doing pretty good with that. I gave her food this morning. She did pretty well with that, so that's been fun. Some oatmeal and some cereal. And then we started trying to put her to bed in her nursery, in her own crib this week, which the first night, Brandon, I put her down. She went down fairly easily, and she actually slept for like 4 hours, which was incredible. And so I was like, man, this is the ticket. We figured it out. Yeah, I was all excited. The next night, did not sleep for 1 second in her crib. And then last night, she slept about 40 minutes and then was crying. And then we had a horrible night after that. But we're going to keep going with it, trying to put her down in her crib. Just get her familiar with sleeping in her crib and in her nursery. We're doing that for naps too. I guess the one positive too with kind of everything that's been going on is she's sleeping much worse at night, but she's been a better napper lately. It seems like she goes down for naps and sometimes will give you an hour and a half, even a 2-hour nap she gave us the other day. So that has been good. It's just, the days aren't even that bad. I won't lie to you. I mean, she's fussy and she's got moods and stuff, but it's just nighttime that's been rough because she hasn't had a good night and it seems like forever. It's probably only been a couple weeks, but it seems like forever. So that's tough. And I don't know if it's the 4-month sleep regression or the teething to blame the most, Brandon, to be honest with you.
So and this might be hard to know, but do you feel like she's out of the colicky phase? Because typically this is past the point.
Right, I did until the last 2 days because she will just like this morning. She normally is really good in the morning, and she woke up and was happy for about 10 minutes, and then she just started screaming for 20 minutes for no reason, which she normally doesn't do. But I also think, and Macy kind of mentioned this, and I kind of had the same thought, I think she might be doing a little bit of cluster feeding again because it seems to me like she's hungry more frequently, and then if we feed her, she calms down for a little bit, which I don't know if that's normal or not. I'll have to do more research on that. But she, I do feel like we're kind of past the colicky stage. But these last few days she just seems kind of miserable. But I do think a lot of it has to do with the teething. She just does not seem to be content, and she wants to gnaw on everything. So if Bryce hasn't had any of that yet, you're very, very lucky because she's started at a very young age, and it's not fun.
Well, what I'm trying to look at a glass half full for you. Maybe it's better. If she was going to, the 4-month thing was real for us. And maybe it's better that you just knocking it all out at the same time. If we're trying to put a positive spin on it. Because I know the teething thing is coming. And
the problem with teething is I try to spin that in my head too. I'm like, yeah, will be good. We knock it all out. But there's a lot of teeth, Brandon.
Yeah.
You get one, then you get another one, then another one, then it's almost never ending when it comes to teething. So I don't know if there's glass half full there, but
is it 26 or 32?
It's too 32. Many. That's all I know. It's too many. But we're getting through it. It's like I said, it's been a little bit tough at nighttime to say the least. We're trying to take turns to calm her down and to do what we can. But it is rough. It's a lot, especially on Macy because it's constant, and a lot of times, we have to feed her when she wakes up like that. Otherwise, she won't go back to bed. So that kind of wears on her. I think she kind of thought we were past that stage, and now we're right smack dab right back in the middle of it. So, but we'll get through, and we'll be better for it, I guess.
Well, this is kind of the beauty of the podcast from a listener's perspective, not for you, but you got two. I remember being where you're at, and I think you've had, honestly, from a sleep and I guess temperament, which is what we're going to talk about, perspective, had a little bit rougher of a go than we have, but we are able to give the listeners multiple perspectives on what's going on. So hopefully those out there listening can relate to at least one of us. And for your sake, I hope it's me right now.
Yeah, and who knows, Brandon, like you said, it could be a couple months from now, and we have it pretty good, and Bryce is going through some stuff. I mean, that's the thing.
Right. No.
There you go.
No.
Maybe they'll both be happy at the same time. I don't know if that's happened yet.
Let's get it.
I like it. But I didn't want to bring up one thing, Brandon. Last time we were on the podcast, you brought up a quiz that's not the quiz we're going to talk about today, but it was the love language quiz. Yeah. And we were kind of laughing about it because you said that your results and Kelsey's results might not be exactly what you thought they were. So I wanted to give you a chance to redeem yourself and tell the listeners a little bit about what the actual results were.
So we actually went back. So one, I was wrong as I thought I was. Just from I was correct in what her current I guess love languages are, but in the back of my head, I think I said during the episode, I think her number one used to be receiving gifts when we first started dating, and apparently that's always been her last. So I was completely wrong, and I think I said in the episode, I'm pretty sure I'm wrong about that. I think it's just mine. So I was accurate there, but we decided let's just redo it. And mine actually have changed since the last time we did it. I am pretty even for my first three, so it's quality time, physical touch, receiving gifts. My least is acts of service at 10%, and it's ironic because that is her number one. So one of my tops is receiving gifts, which is kind of how I express myself and like my love for people, I guess, by getting them stuff. And that is her like last one, and then her number one is acts of service by a long shot. And her last one is receiving gifts. So it's kind of interesting that how we play off of each other there. But I definitely know what I'm doing after we get off this podcast. I'm about to get some chores done.
Well, it was funny because Kelsey brought in Bryce this week to work, and I hadn't talked to her since our last podcast, and I was like, "Hey, Brandon was talking about the 5 love languages. Was he wrong?" She goes, "Yeah, he was absolutely wrong." And I said, "Yeah, he kind of thought he was." I started laughing, and she's like, "Yeah, but it makes sense now. He started buying me gifts recently," and I'm like, "I don't really care." I thought it was hilarious. She's like, he bought me some random thing, and I was like, "This is nice."
An iPad.
Yeah.
She could care less. I'm like, run me the
iPad. That's funny. I thought it was great, but it was funny because it actually prompted Macy and I to take it again. We've taken it before, but we decided to take it again, and I think ours were pretty similar to what they were before, but Macy's number one is quality time, and then words of affirmation and physical touch are close, tied for second. And then acts of service is fourth, and last is receiving gifts. She's not a big gift receiver, I know that, but quality time is very important to her. I'm a little...
my number one.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different. I'm number one. I'm like Kelsey. Acts of service is by far and away my number one. If you want to show me you care, do something, and it definitely is my number one. Quality time's 2 for me, physical touch 3, and then words of affirmation 4. And I'm also like Macy, receiving gifts is last. I'm not a big gift person. I mean, it's great, but like I'm actually awkward with gifts, so I'm not a big gift person, which makes sense for both me and Macy. But it is fun if you guys haven't done it with your partner.
Yeah, you should definitely do it.
It can be eye opening, but also it's just good to kind of sometimes look yourself in the mirror, not only just your partner, but also like yourself. Like, oh, I guess that's why this stuff matters so much to me.
And I think for me, like the gift thing was like if you talk to me around Christmas, I could care less about me actually getting something, but I think that's how I like show love to people more or less. Yeah. So it's interesting that how the results came about, but it's also it's a way that you can get with your partner. And to me, for all you guys out there listening, I'm interested to see how many people who have recently had kids, how the quality time, how high that is for a lot of people, because that's something that inherently you're going to lose a decent amount of. Just it's nothing you can do about it. And so in these moments, if that wasn't high before, it might be something that you care a little bit more about in the first couple of years that you have your kid.
Yeah, speaking of quality time, we were actually fortunate enough this Friday when I got out of work, my in-laws agreed to watch Peyton for a couple hours, and me and Macy were able to go to dinner, just the two of us, which had been a minute. But again, quality of time is important to both her and myself. So that was really, really nice. And we were just down the street from where my in-laws live. We actually walked to the restaurant, but it was
that's cool.
Yeah, it was nice to get away, have a have a drink, have some dinner, and just spend a little bit of quality time together. So that was nice. But it actually reminds me, Brandon, one thing I forgot to bring up this week that might be important to some of the listeners, and I don't know if you've ran into this situation yet, but earlier this week, Macy wakes up about an hour before I do, and she was up about 20 minutes away from leaving for work, and she wakes me up, and she's like, hey, my mom is sick. I don't know if she can watch the baby because she's worried that she might have COVID or something like that. So I kind of instantly went into panic mode, and I'm like, well, what are we supposed to do? And we kind of both looked at each other, and she's like, well, can you stay home? And I'm like, well, can you stay home? And it kind of turned into a thing, and Macy ended up taking off work and staying home. Her mom went to the doctors. It was a sinus infection, got some stuff, was fine. But it kind of showed us that, if someone who's supposed to watch the baby has something come up, we didn't have a really good plan B or even like what we should do. So that is something that I think if you guys haven't already, have those conversations with your spouse, because we hadn't had them, and it kind of caused some stress between us and actually probably caused, I don't want to say a fight. We didn't really get in a fight, but both of us kind of like looked at the other person like they were supposed to have the answers, which is probably not what you want to do in that situation. So have you kind of had that situation happen yet, Brandon?
Unexpectedly, no. I think both of us have. I think I might have on some days more flexibility in my day to day than you do. On other days, less flexibility because you have a backup. It really just depends for me on the day. If I have coverage, I can do a lot of my job from home. So it just really depends, and it's the same. Kelsey does like internal audits for her company, and if she doesn't have like a meeting schedule, she may be able to do some things from home or take the day off. So I think we've had it once. It really wasn't we didn't get into like a conversation on who's going to do what, because I'm pretty sure Kelsey was just like, I'm gonna go, or I'm gonna take the day off. So that was, and that's really what we would do going forward. It's not. I don't think as much of an issue for us because she would just honestly take the day.
Yeah, no, but it's an important conversation. Like you and both your spouse work, just to kind of know what to do.
Or a backup family member.
I think what our biggest problem was it caught us off guard and we had so little time to react. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't the end of the month is the busiest time for us at work. It probably would have been much simpler and I could have just took the day off. But I think I was caught off guard and I had just woken up and so it caused a little bit of chaos. So I think have those conversations, be prepared for the worst, and then you guys kind of know what to do is important.
Yeah, and there's going to be like real times. Like we recently had a situation where I could have brought this up when you first asked me. I took the first half of the day off, and then she left work early. So we kind of split time. Now that was something we had like a couple weeks notice. It's not in a pinch or figuring it out. But I also know I'm blessed with a lot of family members in this area, which is not necessarily the exact same case for you. I know Macy has family in the area, but yours are a little bit further out. So in a real pinch, I'm pretty confident that I could find someone. 'Cause my mom is even like, she watches Bryce, if for those who are not listening, my parents do. And she has already in the past set that up for us. So she'll be like, hey, this is going on. Aunt Joyce already volunteered to watch him if you guys can't get off work. So having a backup person is absolutely helpful and essential.
For sure. To switch gears a little bit, Brandon, I want to bring up a piece of baby gear. This is a piece of baby gear that I do not have. It was actually sent to me by a listener and good friend of ours, Jake. Jake sent me this piece of baby gear, said it is great for them because they like to go on little trips and travel a little bit. And what it is, it's the Pop and Sit portable booster chair. And basically it's like a little fold-up chair, like the little lawn chairs that like adults use, but it's for kids, little kids. And if you pull it up, Brandon, it's kind of cool looking. And it has a little tray on there so you can feed them, have them sit. But if you go somewhere, you're able to have a little portable chair. So he brought that up, said it's been great for them. We probably will end up getting one some point in time. But I thought I'd bring it up on the show because
I bet I have it before you now. Kelsey going to listen to this Monday morning.
It comes in different colors,
like
Kelsey.
$30 at Target.
Yeah, it comes in different colors. Don't worry. You got blue, pink,
it's gonna be
green.
the gray one.
Gray, there you
It's
go.
gray or black for Kelsey.
So, anyways, I thought I'd bring that up. He shared that with me a few weeks ago. We were actually supposed to get together with them yesterday and have the babies hang out because they have a little one at home. But he had a little bit of an accident and hurt his hand, so he had to go to the emergency room. So we didn't get that to happen, which might have been a good thing because Peyton was a little bit of a hot mess yesterday. So that was probably a good thing for them.
So on my end, I don't have a specific thing either, or you did have a specific thing, but I don't have a piece of baby gear. But one thing we're running into is Bryce at 7 months has been in 9-month clothing for about a month now, and is inching his way and basically there at 12-month clothing. And one thing that when you have a 7-month-old who's wearing 12-month clothing, you're still going to be putting them in onesies a lot. And we're running into, one, a price jump in like zip up onesies. 2, not finding as many that double zip for whatever reason. And 3, not finding as many in general. So and I don't know if it's just this time of year. I went to Carter's myself and looked. They didn't have any 12-month onesies at all in the entire store. They got a bunch of outfits, and we could. I mean, you could listen to this 3 months from now, and it's completely different. But in my experience right now, I would just we got a ton of clothes between newborn and 9 months basically. That at this point, at 7 months in, are pretty much not usable. They just got packed into storage actually. So if I could do this all over again, I would spread out and kind of readjust the types of clothes that I'm buying. But if you see 12-month onesies out there, buy them just in case.
Well, we're the opposite. Peyton is still in 0 to 3 months, and she's 4.5 months old. So I'm just convinced all the older clothing we have is never going to get used. So she's getting her money's worth of the 0 to 3 months. And what size diapers Bryson right now?
That's a great point, Jerry. He just used his last, like, we just opened the last bag of used Kirkland 2s. Because they run big. He's been in 3s at my parents' house for like a month. But we had some 2s, and I didn't want to get rid of them because diapers cost money.
They do.
So he's using his last 2s right now. He probably has legit like 5 left, and then he's going to be in 3s.
Okay. Yep. Peyton's still in the 1s. They're actually not too big on her or anything now.
I might have some 2s for you now.
She might get there sooner than later. But Brandon, to get into today's topic, it's the 9 temperament traits, and kind of a little background of how this came up as a topic is I was reading a book called The New Father, which this author, Armin Brott, also wrote the book The Expectant Father, which is something that I talked about in previous episodes. This is his second book. It's called The New Father, and it goes through a month by month what to expect once the baby's born, kind of like he does with the pregnancy. And in that, the chapter I was reading, the 4-month chapter, he talks about a couple of psychiatrists, Stella Chase and Alexander Thomas, who came up with something called the 9 temperament traits for babies. And then so I started reading about it and doing more research, and I guess it's fairly common. So what it is essentially these psychiatrists did some research, and they found out that babies have 9 temperament traits. And depending on where your baby falls in those traits kind of dictates what type of baby you have. So what we'll do, Brandon, is we'll go over a few of these, or all 9 of these, I should say. I'll go over a few, then I'll let you go over a few, and then we'll kind of get into what our results are. So the first temperament trait is approach/withdrawal. Basically what that is saying is, how does your baby react to unfamiliar situations? Are they approachable, or do they kind of withdraw away from stuff? The second is adaptability. So it's very similar to the first one, but it deals more with the long-term reactions. So once they go to new situations, are they good long-term? Are they able to adapt to the situations, not just initially, but over time? That's kind of that one. Third is intensity. It's the amount of energy your baby commonly uses to express her emotions, both positive and negative. Fourth is mood, the general mood. Are they happy or fussy? And the fifth is activity level, the amount of energy they put into everything they do. So, Brandon, I'll let you go over the final 4 if you want, and then we'll kind of go from there.
And actually, I think the research I did had the list numbered differently. So I had the same ones, but I'll let you actually keep going through the rest so we keep it in the same order.
Okay, no worries. So 6 is regularity. It's basically on a day-to-day basis. Is your baby very predictable? Do they eat the same? Do they go to sleep the same? Do they fill diapers the same? 7 is sensitivity. Is your baby very sensitive to noise, to light, to pain, to food? Are they very sensitive or are they not sensitive? 8, distractibility. Are they easily distracted or are they not? Does your baby have ADD? Do they not? And 9, and the last one is persistence. It's similar to distractibility, but it goes basically beyond the initial reaction. Are they very stubborn? And are they for lengths of time? So can you easily distract them is like kind of 8, and persistence is, do they like basically you can't ever get their attention, things of that nature. So those are the 9 different temperament traits, and they have quizzes online, and those quizzes kind of allow you to see where your baby falls. The quiz that Brandon and I did was on a website. I want to get the website right. Do you have it in front of you, Brandon? I think it's yeah. It's the
the MishySleepAcademy.com. Mishy, so it's THEMICHI sleepacademy.com.
Yep, and it's I mean, it was like what 10 to 15 questions.
Yeah, it was super simple. And what I did actually is I took it and I didn't tell Kelsey what it was for, and I just had her take it as well, just to see if we were kind of looking at everything through the same lens. And I know we're going to get to these results in a second, but the other thing in looking at this that was the why was, you always actually talk about this at work, what's your why? But the why for me was important for this, because I look at this almost the same way. You and I are both managers at our job with employees that work under us. And to me, the trait that makes a good manager is understanding that not every employee is the same. So you have to adapt your management style to fit what your employee needs to get the best out of them, put them in the best position to succeed, kind of all the above. This to me is basically a long way of understanding why it's important for parenting as well. I look at parenting and management very similarly, but it's you're putting context towards your child's behavior. Example, I saw your kid, and we'll get into it. If your kid's a picky eater, this might be frustrating, but if you understand your child is sensitive to texture and touch, that might help explain their behavior and kind of help you adjust how you react to certain situations. It's basically just putting context to the mood so you can understand how to help your kids better.
Yeah, it's funny, Brandon. You said you took it and then you had Kelsey take it. I did the exact same thing, and we didn't talk about doing that because I wanted to see like if I was more of a harsh judger than Macy, or we spend different times with her. Correct, and the results were a little bit different. They were similar, but they were a little bit different. So it's funny. I think maybe I'm a little bit more harsh at times, but we still were very similar in our results. But it was kind of funny that you had the same thought, because I did it and then I was like, you know what, I want to have her do it and then kind of see where we fall. So we both had that same thought. But you're exactly right. It's if you can understand your baby and know certain things about them, it allows you to change how you parent, change what you do on a day-to-day basis. So that's kind of what this is designed for. It also lets you know that, again, they came up with these 9 traits. These are 9 different things that babies have different reactions from. So the quiz we took didn't do this, but I've seen a lot of quizzes out there too, Brandon, where they'll actually rank from 1 to 5. So 5 is totally to the one side, 1's totally to the other, and then you could be a 2 or 3 somewhere in the middle, because sometimes your baby might be in the middle, or kind of a little bit one way, but not all the way. So that's another way to do it. And that I thought was interesting. I didn't do that for Peyton, but I might, because it's something, again, to see if it's the same results as the quiz that we took. So, yeah, Brandon, I'll let you kind of go into your results, and then I'll go into mine, and then I'll kind of lay out a little bit of what they say is normal, or what percentages of babies fall in certain categories.
Cool. So the interesting thing is Kelsey and I had the exact same percentages across the board. So we basically had, not even basically, we had the same results. So this particular test, has basically the results. You have the category of the angel baby. They describe this as the kind of baby every first time pregnant woman imagines herself to have, good as gold, yada yada. We can kind of take from the title what the angel baby is. The next category is a textbook baby. This is what they consider a predictable baby, easy to handle, does things on cue. There are surprises, but few surprises. Then you have the touchy baby. This is for an ultra sensitive baby. Worlds and what they describe as an endless array of sensory challenges. An example given, like you flinch at the sound of a motorcycle revving outside the window, dog barking, things like that. And the last two are the spirited baby and the grumpy baby. Spirited baby seems to emerge from the womb knowing what they like and don't like and won't hesitate to let you know. Grumpy baby is exactly what it sounds like. A baby who is basically, they literally describe it as grumpy, old souls as they call it. So the way we broke down, once again, you got textbook, angel, touchy, spirited, and grumpy. Bryce was considered 61% textbook baby, 28% angel baby, 6% touchy baby, and 6% spirited baby. There was nothing given from the grumpy baby perspective.
Lucky you.
I was telling Kelsey after we saw it, I was like, I'm interested to see how Peyton's results are.
Actually, I was surprised by Peyton's results, though. It's not probably what a lot of you at home think, or even what I thought it would be. Now, the one thing that I can tell you was very obvious is her lowest was 6% angel baby. I don't think anyone would call her an angel baby, but she was only 11% grumpy baby and 11% touchy baby. Her top two were actually textbook baby at 39% and spirited baby at 33%. So I think,
that's
for
what I
us,
thought it would be. Not the percentages, but top two.
Yep. So she's got a lot of things, because I think with Peyton is she's not overly sensitive to light or noises and things, and she's also very good with different people and when we go out to different environments. So all those things I think help in those categories. But she's also spirited. She's got a strong personality and she's not afraid to let you know. And the other thing too is a lot of the things that they talked about weren't dealing with sleeping patterns. And if you take away the sleeping issues with Peyton, a lot of it's not much different than your typical baby. So it kind of made sense. It was a little bit surprising. I would have thought that spirited would have been number one, but textbook was by a little bit. So that's kind of where our results were. I think when I did it myself without Macy, I might have had them flipped, but it was very close.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, Jerry. If before we had kids, and even now, you tell me I'm having a little girl, and I'm reading the definition of spirited baby as someone who emerges from the womb knowing what she likes and doesn't like and won't hesitate to let you know. Guess what I want my daughter's number one to be? That. So yep. I'm not really mad at it.
Oh yeah, she's definitely got a lot of personality, and she's not afraid to let you know what she thinks. So
I wonder where she gets that from.
I don't know. I can't tell you. But Brandon, to kind of go into percentages, and this is also in the book, The New Father, he says that if you have someone that what they would classify as the angel baby, or on his list has a lot of the ones or twos, which go towards the good side of the rankings, you have what they call, quote unquote, an easy child, which about 40% of parents have what they call easy children. So I thought that was interesting. If you had a lot of fours or fives, or what they would call basically a grumpy baby, that is about only 10% of people. So most people kind of fall in between that somewhere, which is going to be your textbook or your spirited, things of that nature. So about 10% challenging, 40% easy. So again, the other thing you could keep in mind if you're at home listening to this, and let's say you do have a more challenging baby, if you have another kid, percentages say that you probably will get more lucky the second time around, because there tends to be more easy babies, or at least textbook babies, than there are quote unquote challenging babies.
That's good to know, because on this end of the spectrum, I don't want to be dealing with a grumpy baby either.
Yeah, no, I mean, grumpy babies can be can obviously be tough. And another thing too is like I don't think you can classify a baby for its whole like first year, let's say, as one thing or another. They go through stages. We all know this. Or as we love to talk about, Brandon, they go through leaps, about 100 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
But the point is that you can have a baby that at times is an angel baby, at times is a grumpy baby, at times is a textbook baby. They can go in and out. It's just what are they consistently or on average most of the time. But I mean, we've all seen Bryce has had good days. He's had bad days. Peyton's been the same way. So what are they most of the time? And, how can you address that?
What's interesting to me is in doing research for this, the studies, it seem, feel that these temperament or these traits are innate traits that the kids are born with and actually to a degree follow them throughout life. So the thought, and I'm interested to see how our kids stack up to kind of what we see from the beginning. The thought is that the temperament style plays a role in how they like behave and interact with people as they get older, but that it will follow them going forward. Ultimately, it's our jobs as parents to bring out, like I said earlier, the best of those traits and put them in good positions. But I've always been told a lot of how I act now is how I acted as a baby. I'm not sure if you've heard the same thing, but it seems that in my experience of what I've been told about myself as a young child, it did hold true.
Yeah, I think that even looking, I have a lot of siblings. I have 6 siblings, right, and myself, and a lot of their temperaments when they were younger did kind of hold true. Some of them changed a decent amount, and I changed, I think, a little bit, but a lot of the same characteristics do stick. Another thing to keep in mind too, Brandon, we've talked about the temperament traits. There is quizzes for babies 0 to 12 months. There's also a different one for 12 months and older, so it can change a little bit. And I will say, when you're talking about characteristics, I think characteristics as toddlers and kids seem to hold true more than just as babies, because that, as far as my experience goes, wasn't true to my sister was an angel kid, but not a very good baby, for example. I was a really good baby and not the greatest kid, so I mean, it can flip. So I'm hoping, because Peyton's been a little bit of a troublesome baby, that she's an angel kid, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm interested. And even, I mean, if I think about like my little brother, you would classify him as extremely, you're not going to believe this because you know him, extremely shy, and not like talking to new people, things like that, as a young toddler and even into like elementary school. And now he's a social butterfly, to put it lightly.
Well, it's funny because my brother, who you know very well, was the exact same way. He was super shy, wouldn't talk to anyone, very quiet, all the way pretty much through middle school. And then when he got into high school and beyond, now you know him, he'll talk to anyone and everyone to the point where you got to drag him away from people.
Maybe it's just a second son thing.
It could be. But I think the point of all this too, Brandon, like you kind of hit on this already, but it's to know your baby and then kind of figure out what to do if they are very strong in one of the categories. So if they're very sensitive, let's say to noise and light, be aware of that. Don't go from dark to light constantly if you're just going to upset your baby. If they're sensitive to certain things, maybe when you're starting foods, you start more simple. You don't drastically change things, instantly, because they're sensitive to new things. Figure out where your baby falls in certain things. If they're not easily distractible, work at it. Kind of find ways that you can get their attention. There's certain things that get their attention more than other things. So it's just to kind of figure out where your baby falls in each trait, and if there's ones that you need to be aware of, and if there's ones you need to work on, because you can do both of those things.
Yeah, ultimately, how we as parents react to our kids' behavior is going to play a huge role in the person they grow up to be. And we have to, I said this is my third time saying this, but it's important. We have to put them in the best position to succeed, which means we have to understand what makes them tick. And I'm really happy that you brought this topic up earlier in the week, because it caused me to look at things a little bit like you kind of have like I think we both are just wired this way to try to understand why things are happening the way they are. But to actually look at the research behind it, and have these 9 different categories that you can figure out, hey, Bryce fits into this way, and this is how I should react to it. I think overall this is an absolute necessity for parents to take their kids through, and it's going to make life easier.
Yeah, and what it did for us too is, Peyton's been a colicky and cranky baby a lot of the times, but taking the quizzes and going through it, I realized she's also had a lot of positive things that we should be very thankful for. Like I said, she's very portable. We can take her places and she doesn't get upset by it. She's very good with people coming over. She's amazing with our dog. I've never seen a baby better with a dog in my life. She's fascinated by Raja lately. Raja will kiss her, lick her, get near her, and she never gets upset. If she does, it's like 1 out of a million times. So just things like that she's very, very good with. That's nice. So yes, she has a lot of things that are troubling or difficult, but she also has a lot of good qualities too. So it's important to kind of see the good with the bad.
Yeah, it's funny to me in looking at this and then thinking about like our parents or our like maybe their siblings and how a lot of like the old school way of parenting is, which is ultimately my way or the highway. You need to listen. You need to do exactly as I say, and it's mostly passed down like learned behavior. They're parenting the way that their parents parented them, and I'm not saying this is exactly my experience, but I don't know how much of this I saw in like my friends' parents and things like that growing up, as far as tailoring things to their specific personality traits. I was always kind of taught, and I saw this a lot. I had a friend of mine who was absolutely afraid of, this might not even be a good example, I'm telling anyway, like of heights and roller coasters and stuff like that. And he still is to this day. But his dad would force him in these uncomfortable situations, roller coasters, going on like tall buildings, stuff like that, to try to get the fear out of him, which to a degree I actually respect. This is why I kind of almost stopped myself from telling it. But maybe there was more to it, and maybe there is learning why. And if this is something that's consistent across the board, you just kind of I see both sides of it. It's are there going to be positions where you need to put your kid in that are uncomfortable so they understand how to deal with uncomfortable situations? Yes. Right. But there also may be times that's not what you need to do. You need to understand what makes your kid tick.
It's like the picky,
a really crappy example.
It's like the picky eater situation to me. Like some people always like my parents were this way. You're going to eat what's in front of you, or you're not going to eat it at all, right? And I was never picky, so a lot of me growing up was like, yeah, that's the way to do it. If you make your kids eat what's in front of them, then they aren't picky. My wife, she's more picky, and I think her parents are more lenient. So I was always like, oh, that's why. But at the same time, I look at someone like my sister. She tells her kids to eat what's in front of them, does kind of the same parenting for all 3 of her kids, yet she has 1 that's picky and 2 that aren't. So, sometimes maybe kids just are a little bit different, and I'm not saying I have the answers, but it is something to pay attention to, because some of it can be what you do and trying to get them to get over their fears or over their sensitivities, but some of it might just be innate inside them. They might not like certain things, or they might be afraid of certain things, and you might not be able to break that. So you got to understand them and try to help them through it. And then sometimes just understand that they do have those fears.
Yeah, completely agree.
I think that's a good place to wrap up the topic, Brandon. And you've already claimed that you're going to beat me today with the dad joke, which you probably will.
Yours grew on me. I think it was a little over my head to start, but it wasn't bad.
Well, you were shocked at first.
Will Smith just hit me. Keep my name out your mouth, Jerry. Jerry, what genre are national anthems?
I don't know.
Country.
Oh, I almost said that too, but it didn't make sense. I don't know why. That was the first one that popped in my head. I was like, American country, but like, I don't know why.
What were you like?
American country.
That's a good accent.
I liked
Straight
it.
from Nashville.
Straight from Nashville. No, that was pretty good. That makes sense. I like that one.
This has been one of my favorite episodes. I like the conversation.
I did. I think that this is a good topic. It's something that I didn't know about until I read this in the book. I texted you, asked you if you had heard about it. You hadn't. So that's the great thing about parenting is you're always finding new things to talk about or to research. And it's every day's different and every day's new. So that's fun. But for those of you that are fans of us and haven't already, please like us on Facebook. Please like us on Instagram. Please follow us on TikTok. And please tell your friends about us. That is the biggest thing. Shoot us some ideas, or if you want to hear us talk about some stuff, do that. Brandon and myself say this all the time. We're going through this for the first time, just like a lot of you are, and we're kind of learning things, and some things we might think we know, and then we find out we don't. We're not doctors or anything. We're just basically telling you our experiences, and it's good sometimes to talk to people going through the same things, kind of hearing what they're going through can be therapy, and also it can give you some ideas. So don't be afraid to talk to us. We love that. Our episode last week was from someone, so yeah. we do and like that.
Send us topics, because if we run out of topics, we're just going to start having more kids so we can figure out more different things to talk about.
Or we'll turn it into somehow a sports podcast, because from time to time, that's what happens on this show.
No one wants to hear your sports opinions, Jerry.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't. But for Brandon, I am Jerry, and you've been listening to Dad Jokes.